Yeah, it's very true.
Ain't no such thing as a free lunch, motherfucker.
Already off to a bad start. The show is already canceled. This is going to be the last episode.
There is a lonely train called the 310 to Yuma.
Oh, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. This week, for the first time ever, we are doing a Western. 310 to Yuma, 1957 versus 2007.
Yeah. We're doing a Western.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
The weirdest part about this Western, it was your idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate Westerns, and you were just like, 310 to Yuma. I was like, sold.
Well, I couldn't remember hating the movie. I remember seeing the movie, but I don't remember hating it, so I figured it couldn't be that bad. Couldn't be that bad of an idea.
No, this was a fun week, because I really liked both of these movies. I was in love with the 2007 version.
And you had never seen the original.
I had never seen the original. I'd only seen clips and like some pieces of it, like with my dad. I had seen the ending.
I've seen the original and I hadn't seen the remake.
Yeah, so I had. Do you have any good memories of you watching with your dad?
I always have good memories of Westerns that I do like because my parents love Westerns. So we're constantly watching it as kids. Because that's, like I said, my parents really love Westerns. It's one thing that'll get them in a room together.
That is true. That is true. I've seen your dad.
Yeah.
Put on high noon. The way he this last weekend, he cleared out the room with Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
I was there because that's a good movie, but that's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
A very acquired taste.
But yeah, so I remember liking the movie. Then that's about it.
Yeah, I know I caught the end one day on cable with my dad, and he like talked the movie up, but I was like, yeah, whatever, black and white Western. Who cares? Right? So
yeah, I grumbled too.
Yeah, so I didn't really think much of it. And then in 2007, that was an era when I went to go see everything, basically, that came out in theaters. I wasn't really excited for 310 to Yuma, but it had a great cast. It looked good. And I went to go see it with a buddy of mine. And I mean, it knocked my socks off. It really did. Like, I just, like, because I didn't know the story. So all this was like, holy shit, oh, how cool. And I loved the movie. I bought it on Blu-ray, which is not something I normally do. I don't always buy new movies, and I bought that movie right when it came out. I was automatically in love with the film, and this is great because I'd never seen the original, and I have another film that I love that's just like this other movie I love, but a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that's a super cool thing that happened. Spoiler, guys, we like both of these movies. So
yeah, the original is really good.
So the original is, first of all, I wasn't even dreading it. Once I had read up about it, I was like, oh man, this is going to be a pretty cool movie. I really want to know what the hell is going to happen and how it's going to play out, because I knew there was going to be some things that were different. So I was intrigued. This wasn't one of the weeks where I was like kind of dreading watching a movie.
I want to start with the title card, okay? Because the title card is unique in the fact that it has its own song written for it.
Yeah, and we played that to come in. It's really good.
It's sung by Frankie Lake.
Yeah.
Well known for his singing theme songs for Westerns. So it ain't his first rodeo. And having such sincerity in his singing. So that's what people said about his voice, that they really loved it, the way how sincere he sounded.
Yeah. His singing performance really is fantastic. There's lots of performances that are great all around this sumbitch.
And it's because of this that Mel Brooks chose Lane to sing the theme song for Blazing Saddles.
I did not know that.
He sang his heart out, never realizing he was singing a spoof.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's a great fact. So this movie was made in 1957. And first of all, I want to talk about one Mr. Elmore Leonard, who is a fantastic and legendary author. Get Shorty, lots of other great books that aren't coming to mind right now. You've definitely seen some. Out of Sight, that's my favorite of his that's been adapted. Jackie Brown, now they're all coming to me. Midway through the show, I'm going to be able to remember every movie, every book of his that's ever come out, movie that's been adapted. Karen Sisco on ABC years ago was based off his characters from Out of Sight. Here I am, just listing them all now. Anyway, he wrote this, and this was actually an incredibly short story that he wrote in 53, and he sold it to, I believe, Dime Western Magazine, a publication that obviously only specialized in Western stories. And it was $4,500, and I believe he was getting like 5 cents a word. So that came out to around $90 for the story, is what he was able to gather back then.
It was 2 cents a word.
2 cents a word, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
2 cents a word. Math was not my strong suit. That's why I'm a podcaster and not a mathematician. So I'm not doing something more substantial. Please subscribe. You know what? We're bad podcast hosts. Who the hell are we?
Oh my God.
We were so excited about 310 to Yuma.
We totally
that
forgot.
we fucking forgot about
Hey,
who
guys.
we are. Hi.
Hey.
Hello, hello, hello. My signature. I'm Pedro.
And I'm Meredith.
Yeah, this is my wife, Meredith, and we talk about movies. You know what? I tell you what, while we're here, you know what else we should do? If you want to know more about us and comment and say anything to us, Gritty Reboot at Instagram or at TikTok. Best way to get a hold of us. Or you can find me at Illusionist13. You can get a hold of me like that way on Twitter. I'll respond to you every now and then. Whatever, you know. Meredith, your social?
I don't have socials.
Fuck social media. That's what I say. All right. So now that everyone knows who we are, we're not just some strangers blaring in your ears about 310 to Yuma. Do you have anything to follow up with Elmore Leonard?
I hadn't read the short story. I actually like Elmore Leonard as an author.
Yeah, I took the time to read the short story. Like I said, it's 4,500 pages, 4,500 words. Very different, very different. 4,500 words. So I was able to finish this up this afternoon, and it only is like the elements of the movie are sort of there. All the character names are different, except for Charlie. He's the only character who is actually a character name who is repeated for some reason. So that's about the only thing that's there. But you see some elements of the story that 310 to Yuma would become in the film version. So it's not 100% faithful, but they did take a lot of the elements and some of the spicier bits of dialogue from Elmore Leonard's work.
Yeah, the movie starts off with a gang that comes up on a coach, and that gang is Ben Wade's gang.
Yeah, we open pretty much right up on that.
Yeah.
We open up with them coming up there, and we see our two main characters, Ben Wade, and then, of course, we have Dan Evans. And these guys are played by Glenn Ford and Van Heflin. And I want to mention their names straight off the bat here, because this is one of the best acted Westerns I've ever seen.
Oh, it's so
Hands
good.
down.
Glenn Ford is so good.
Glenn Ford is amazing in this movie.
Yeah.
The way, in this opening sequence, he is going to let us know everything we need to know about this character right off the bat. Just from his mannerisms, you know, from the way he expertly moves through the situation, taking control. And even when something that happens that is out of his control, it is of no consequence to him. He is always in control.
Cool.
He immediately takes down his own man for the mistake that he made and the stagecoach driver without hesitation. No, and so we know straight out with the fact, Ben Wade's a killer.
Yeah.
He may be a cool customer, but he kills who he has to when he has to. And the way it's always done, like you always worry that you're crossing a line into cartoonish evil, and it's just never something that it has even come up here. Ben Wade is such a nuanced character from the start, and he's just elegantly played. I can't say enough fantastic things about Glenn Ford in this movie. And we see it contrasted immediately, because Dan's only concern is keeping his cattle and then his kids safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the main thing that he is really concerned about. Even though his kids are fascinated by the very cool robbery and the cool outlaws, you know, his concern is to keep them safe and, of course, not to lose his livelihood because he's having money troubles, of course. This is a good way to introduce our movie. Our two characters are automatically
At odds.
Yeah, at odds. They're, you know, in the same area, eye to eye. I like this scene. I like the way it plays out. I think we're going to talk about a much longer version of it later, but that doesn't really take away from the impact of this, me coming from watching that film first. Both scenes are still incredibly effective. I really love the way this one plays out, and it sets everything up. You know, we see once they meet, Ben Wade has a moral compass. Like, he may be an outlaw, but there's no reason to kill a rancher and his kids because they saw you commit a crime.
Yeah.
And we don't know if the rest of his gang might feel that way. But Ben Wade is in charge 100%. So he just takes the horses.
Yeah, and they respect him, those men.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can
It's
see why.
obvious.
Yeah, you can see why. He's got a 10
Like-
in charisma.
What's the guy's name that's his
Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah.
He's like all about Ben Wade.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely see that. He's a guy who's willing to follow his, like he's a rabid dog willing to follow his master into hell. Like
Yeah,
that's it right
A
there.
rabid dog. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and this is a character who's a lot of fun in both versions. A really fantastic work. The actor in this one is Richard Jekyll. He plays Charlie Prince. That's the full name of the character. And I mean, he's really good here. He really is. There's a lot going on with acting in this movie. I
Mhm.
forgot to mention earlier, by the way, that this is directed by Delmore Daves, who's a bit of an underrated director of this era. He actually did make some very cool movies around the time. He made a film called Broken Arrow in 1950, and that is the first pro-Indian Western.
Mm-hmm.
It does not like have an incredibly negative view of the Native Americans where they're just bloodthirsty savages. So that is something to keep in mind. He's got a number of underrated films. You can look him up and catch a little bit of his catalog. You know, he made a classic film here, but he didn't really go on to have like a big name career or anything like that. But definitely an underrated filmmaker, and he gets fantastic performances out of everybody in this movie.
So his sons have to watch their father kind of cower a little bit, at least in their eyes. He's kind of cowering towards these lawless men. How do you think that affects the character?
Well, it puts a tremendous strain on Dan.
Yeah.
You know, because Dan, Dan doesn't want to look weak, but he's not stupid either. Like, you just can't point a gun at Ben Wade and demand what's yours. You have to negotiate with a man like that for what's yours because he's a killer. You know, at any moment, he could tire of any conversation you're giving him and just shoot you dead and take whatever you have. I'm pretty sure it's happened a lot to Ben Wade. So I like the way he plays it, but like, and the way it's portrayed is really good because you can see that struggle within him. Like him trying to look his toughest while not getting on Ben Wade's bad side. But he's got to get his herd of cattle. Like he has to be very
That's
clear.
It for him.
I need that. Like I need that. And what is interesting is that Ben Wade can see that. Like he can look down, he can see how skinny the cattle are, and he can see the desperation in Dan's eyes. So he's got no issue with like, I don't need your cattle. You can have them back. I need you to give me some time. And despite their well-laid plan, they take away the horses so they can ride into the town.
Yeah. And even his wife gives him a little shit for it.
Yeah. I mean, people are down on Dan.
Yeah.
They are. And he's upbeat about his situation in this one. Like he still is confident about who he is and everything around him. But a lot of people really question how he's handled things, which I think is about the entire point of the movie. Like the way he handles things is correct. You know, if he didn't do this here, Ben Wade or Charlie Prince just could have shot him down. His kids could have been without a father. So what he did, he makes the right call here, even if it doesn't look great. You know, sometimes you got to take an L. I mean, that's the long and the short of it.
And you get even more about Ben Wade's character with the next scene in the bar with the bartender.
Yeah.
She serves all the men, and then Ben Wade basically orders them away. And they go away.
Yeah, they ride the next town.
Yeah. And he's left there with her. Mm-hmm. And they have a great exchange.
They do. They have instant chemistry.
And it's like love at first sight.
Yeah, it really is. And he just turns in like Casanova. Like I said, this is a character with like a 10 in charisma.
Dude, I was ready to fuck him.
Me too. It was a really well done scene, to be honest. Another one where, the acting is just so on point in this movie. It doesn't make a lot of sense for Ben Wade to stay until you watch that scene. Like if I described to somebody, they wouldn't be like, we should have left, what a dope. Like, he had a reason to take a chance, you know? Mm-hmm. He had a reason to take a chance, and, he did, and I like it because I never really question that motivation. I'm okay with a character doing a dumb thing in a movie if I know why they fucking did it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that this screenplay really does quite well. The screenplay is full of nice little quirks and everything like that. And that's one thing that I very much appreciated. This is an incredibly well-written film. Even today, if you remade this movie directly as maybe a low-budget movie, it'd probably be a fantastic thriller because it's a really, really good, tight script.
Let's talk about the movie's pace. Like, it is moving.
Yeah, no, that's why I mentioned.
It's paced well.
Yeah, I mentioned that kind of at the 30-minute mark. I said, we are moving and grooving. Because that scene flows really nicely. And then once we come out of there, we have the posse coming out. Of course, that's what they did. We didn't mention that. Once they got to the saloon, Ben Wade expertly sends the Pinkertons all the way out the wrong direction. That's why they got a chance to grab a drink and why he had a chance to get laid. Yeah. But it doesn't work out for them because Dan actually tips them off about what happened. So they come back and the whole thing falls apart. Because he stayed behind for the girl, he's able to run into Dan in the bar, which is a very, very cool scene.
Yeah.
Probably why it's replicated almost exactly in the 2007 version when he's in the bar. Their quick little conversation where he's trying to distract Ben Wade and he wants cash. And you know what? Ben Wade's totally cool with it. Because he's like, you know what, man, I fucked you shit. And I just got some. It ain't that big a deal. And, Wade is so cool about it. He throws him, I believe, $5. His initial thing. Sorry for that. Well, you wasted my time. You're right. Throws him the $2. His kid's time, 2 more. Because Ben is just like, he is no enemy of a hard-working guy. He robs banks because they're fucking rich. He does not want to rob somebody who's fucking destitute. That idea sickens him. Like, he never thinks about trying to take anything from Dan. And so I like this scene that the money doesn't matter to him at all. He's like, you know what, farmer? It is what it is, right? Or rancher, it is what it is. And I love the way it's played. And my favorite to end it is, why don't you give me $5 extra? What's that for? Making me nervous. That's some very good dialogue, incredibly well acted. It's a classic scene. It's why they repeat it, and I think I like this version better, actually. I really like the way it plays out. And of course, that moment when he hears about the $5, the jig is up. The marshal comes up behind him, and we kick this movie into high gear.
Yeah.
Ben Wade has been captured, and he's got to get, where are they going? Contention.
I was thinking construction. No, that's not right.
Construction. So they're going to be building a new Taco Bell just outside of Yuma. So that's when they hatch the plan to go to contention, catch a 310 to Yuma.
Yeah, they go through all these different scenarios, and that's the one that they choose. How do you feel about this movie's cinematography?
The black and white cinematography is absolutely striking.
We were a little spoiled because we got to see probably the Criterion.
Yeah, the Criterion 1080 rip.
It was beautiful.
I ripped it off my own Criterion. But I was really just amazed by it. Like, there were so many times I would look at a shot and go, Jesus Christ, man, that's amazing cinematography.
Yeah.
Like today, and I told you, I was like, yeah, I know there's sets when they go inside, but there's none of the outdoor action is ever on a set, I don't believe. Everything is outdoors, and it gives it such a great look. It's one of my chief complaints about The Searchers, is all the stuff they actually do outdoors looks good, but there's so many times they would use a set, and it just, in HD, it looks so phony. I can only imagine what the 4K version would look like. To know that they did all that mostly on location, only use sets when they were, indoors, makes the movie just look so fantastic. Holds up really today. It's truly amazing.
Although most Westerns were produced in color at the time, Delmore Davies and Charles Lawton Jr. shot in black and white. Lawton used red filters on the lenses to give the landscape a parched look, like it was a drought.
Yeah, you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Without color, you feel how dry everything is. And that's interesting. Both films really do well. They're very dry, dusty movies, which makes cinematography look better when the characters move around and all this dust from the dry earth just flies into the air. I love that. It all looks fantastic.
Okay, so Marshall captures Ben Wade. Oh, that's right. After that, Ben goes to Dan's house.
Yeah, but before he goes there, actually, there's a quick sequence there where we find out. Well, we know that Ben finds out directly about Dan's financial straits.
Mm-hmm.
And how bad it is. Like, he's basically asking a buddy for money, which leads him to having to take this job for. How much is it?
$200.
$200 is all this is for. And I think $200, by the way, if you're curious, today they would be like $5,700, I think.
Oh, okay.
57 or just under $6,000. The number I got was from 2020, so inflation could have made that way worse. But either way, it was a good chunk of change. So they have to go to Ben's house to do the exchange. And we get a really interesting dinner sequence.
Yeah.
Because Ben Wade immediately impresses
the wife.
Yeah, Alice.
The wife's like, yes.
With the 10 charisma.
You are right.
Yeah.
I think I like you.
Yeah, see, he's a charming guy.
He's so charming.
Yeah, like I said, that charisma is really what gets him everywhere. And it's a really interesting scene again, because it opens up with the kids saying, are we not saying grace? Do murderers not need to say grace? And I think that's an interesting way to attack the scene. As opposed to everyone trying to be awkward, they had really fun dialogue to get us to this calamity of this murderer in this situation of just a normal day for Dan and his family.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just inserted there, and he's completely dominating the situation. As much as Dan does not want it that way. It's another classic scene here. I really love the way it plays out. And we learn more about the interaction between both of our characters here.
Yeah. I think Ben learns a lot more about Dan and his situation and how his family views him. And It's the dynamic between those two is just amazing. It could have been the whole movie could have just been them two, and I would have been
Much
happy.
is.
Well, there's people in the background.
Yeah.
There's
but it is. I mean, like I said, they're the two people on the poster. These are two guys the movie's about.
yeah.
And it's another scene that drives home the real importance of their relationship. So our party consists of, by the way, it's a Dan and Alex Potter, right?
Yeah.
As well as the stagecoach guy. What was his name?
Byron.
Stillwater, something like that?
Something like that.
Stillwater. So he goes out there. The one thing I think is interesting is when they decide it's time to go, they are just in contention, right?
Mhm.
The next scene, we're just there. So the journey was effortless to get there. The entire bulk of the movie from here on out is going to take place in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And this is what you just talked about. This is just two guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's and it's a very interesting scene. I mean, a very interesting sequence because it's a bunch of scenes. You know, because we get there and we get the very first time that Ben is going to test Dan, the issue with the window, right?
Yeah.
And listen, we've all it's a very mundane situation, but the movie is playing that situation again where we have this violent killer thrown in the mix. You have to like keep your eye on your kid while you're doing something. Well, that's kind of what he's doing here, except it's a violent killer. So he's got to keep his gun on him while he's trying to put the broomstick in the window, and he can't quite get it done. And I love it. Ben tries to go for the gun. He immediately puts him down and points the gun right at him. Dan does not relent at all. He had to test him. You know, even says, I had to see what you had. So he knows like he's just not going to be able to take him down easily.
Yeah.
He's no slouch. And you know, I like that. You know, everything builds. You know, after that, he can't do the physical, so he has to try to attack him mentally. You know, he goes at him with everything he knows about him financially. And I love all that too. Your wife, I bet she could be so pretty with the right dresses. You know that whole sequence?
Oh yeah.
That is, I love that whole entire bit.
He's trying to wear him down and he almost succeeds. Like you can tell, especially when he starts offering him more money than he's ever known.
Yeah.
He starts.
I mean, $1,000. You know, that's big cash.
That'll take care of all his problems.
Yeah, that really will. It'll take care of everything.
Everybody will be happy, but he doesn't relent.
Yeah.
It's such a great character.
Yeah, it's the last thing an outlaw wants to run into. An honest man.
Yeah.
And that's what he is. Absolutely an honest man. I took $200 for this job, and I'm going to deliver you to justice.
Yeah.
That is what I am going to do. I love the way the interaction is played. And like I said, it is kind of weird to think about how much time we do spend in a hotel room, which is sort of interesting because we're there a lot, you know. We see a little bit of action downstairs with Charlie down there.
Yeah.
He gets wind because we have a funeral procession that comes through, and it's for the stagecoach driver that Ben shot earlier. And Ben shows a little regret here when he has to look out, see the aftermath of that cold-blooded kill he made earlier. His family grieving over him. And that almost literally comes back to bite him as his brother comes into the room and attempts to kill Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that sequence because Dan jumps in there instantly and disarms him, wrestles the gun away from him, but a shot's fired. But he saved Ben's life. But it lets Charlie downstairs know
that somebody's upstairs.
Exactly. And so this throws us right into the third act. The tension begins to go up because he's getting the gang and they're coming back.
Yeah, they know he's here.
Yeah. He's off and he's going to get them, and like they're basically trying to run out the clock and hope that it gets to 3:10 before they return. But we both know that's not going to happen. They try to get the sheriff. He's out of town. He's transporting another fugitive. So they are on their own.
Yeah, and the gang's outside, and the rich guy from the carriage, I can't remember his name, but he actually Butterfield, yeah, he hires a bunch of goons to like fend off the outlaws.
Yeah.
And once the outlaws show up, they start walking out. They're like, "Fuck this! I ain't getting killed."
Yeah.
We didn't sign up for this. We thought it was only going to be a few guys. It's a gang of people.
Yeah.
There's no way. So they all walk out, leaving like Butterfield and all those guys alone.
Yeah, and I think that the movie expertly takes a sharp turn because the gang engages with our heroes, and Alex saves Ben and takes a bullet and has to stay back. And this doesn't work well for him, does it not?
No.
We get a very, very interesting shot where the camera creeps up from the balcony, from the steps, and then we see the silhouette of Alex dangling from the chandelier.
Yeah.
And it's not gory, it's not bloody, but it lets us know our characters are in deep shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way it's done. It immediately ratchets up the tension. And at that point, Ben's offer looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It really does. Because, Alex was our comic relief character. He was there basically cracking jokes and wanting alcohol the whole time. That was his entire purpose, was to sort of lighten up the movie. And here he was brutally murdered.
Yeah.
So right then and there, it puts the fear of God in Butterfield, and he's out. But not Dan.
Nope.
Not Dan.
He's there by himself.
He took that. It doesn't matter, His wife comes to give him a pep talk.
Yeah, his wife shows up.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah. Like, this isn't something you need to be doing. But he explains to her, and Ben is able to hear why he has to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Why it has to be done. Because there's certain things that have to, and he's going to go and get it done. He's a man of honor. He's going to stick to it no matter what. And you can just see the way Ben is able to look at him as things continue to escalate. He has so much respect for Dan. Because I'm sure when you're a scoundrel, that's all you see. Other fucking outlaws and horrible people. For him to be able to see a good, honorable man, you can just see that. Like, there's no reason for me to ever cross paths with this guy, but here I am, and he doesn't deserve to die here.
Yeah.
He's out here doing the right thing, trying to help his family survive. He's the last person that needs to die out here today. And you can definitely tell that, because when things start to kick into high gear and the train is coming and they've got to get out there, there are Wade's gang up on the roofs of all the buildings. They have a great position on them, and they only get one chance to really break. And, right before the cattle come, there's a nice little moment.
Wave to him, huh?
This is Dan and Ben talking. There's the train.
Yep.
Well, right on time.
I won't have to wait.
There's still time to get out of this, Dan. There's still time.
Across the street. Here we go. Now.
Just like that, using that cattle to cross the street. And so we get a nice sequence where Ben is going to try to dodge everything going through the town.
Yeah.
Ben is along for the ride, and you can tell from that early on, like, he's like, this is your last chance to get out of that. He is doing everything he can to make sure this guy gets out of it safely. He does not want to make his kids orphans or fatherless. Like, I guess their mother could die of grief.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah,
That's very dramatic of you. Shakespearean almost.
So we get them running all throughout the town, avoiding all the bullets, them taking them out, and they get right up into the train.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting up close to it, and we also see Ben's gang closing in from the other side.
Drop, Ben! Drop, Ben! Drop! Come on, Ben! I'll kill him!
They've got the shot. Ben won't let him take it.
Let's get out of here.
Us? How do I know you'll jump?
You'll have to trust me on this one. Jump!
And just like that, they make it on the train.
I think
Did you do it, Ben?
Prince dies.
Yeah, he does
Prince
shoot Charlie.
dies.
Yeah, Dan does shoot Charlie. He goes down. You don't know if he dies, but he got shot in the 1880s.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. In the 1880s, that makes a hole in you.
So I do want to say it is a bit cheesy, but I really love that he makes it on the train. This is right there. He sees his wife and he waves to her. And right as he waves, the goddamn rain starts coming down, answering all of his problems. The drought is over. The day is saved. Hit the music.
Yeah.
10 to you.
That's how you end the fucking movie, I'll tell you that
Yeah,
much. 'Cause
absolutely.
Yeah, that excitement I brought right there, that's exactly how I felt sitting right there, like, yeah! I was
Yeah, I
stoked
enjoyed
he
it
made
too.
it.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, every now and then that happens where, like, there's a movie I haven't seen and I'm just, like, getting into it, you know? The same thing happened in the Poseidon Adventure, because I didn't expect much from it, you know, and I was almost like, yeah, you dive underwater and save him! You know, this movie was pretty similar. Like, I was really marking out for this end sequence. I loved it.
This film was chosen in 2012 to be memorialized by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
As it should be.
Yeah. Glenn Ford was originally offered the role of Dan, but turned it down to play Ben Wade.
That's a good call.
Yeah. Van Hefling's performance was widely praised, but Glenn Ford's wasn't. They believe the film suffered because of Ford's inability to be nasty.
Oh man. Well, that's the thing.
He was really charming.
Yeah, that's the thing you see while doing this is that how often like contemporary critics, you know, just get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those guys who were out then, they completely missed the mark on a movie, don't even see it. So I ended up really enjoying this film a ton. I would definitely go back and rewatch this. It's a super high recommend. I mean, I really can't stress that enough. If you've never seen this version of 310 to Yuma, you're really missing out. It's a great Western with great performances, great characterization, fantastic cinematography.
It holds up.
There's a reason it's a Criterion film.
1957, and it holds up.
It really does. It really does. I think this is, if you're like a budding screenwriter, you can definitely watch this movie and learn a lot of lessons from it. You know, it's a great way to show a bad guy. Your Westerns are all about your bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have a great bad guy if you're making a Western, and this has one of the best bad guys in cinema history. So that's it right there.
But we move on to a movie that's also very good.
That's right. That's right. So in the year of our Lord, 2007, we were blessed with a remake of this film. It's directed by one James Mangold, starring Vanessa Shaw, Alan Tudyk, Dallas Roberts, Ben Foster, the man himself, Gretchen Mol, Peter Fonda, Christian Bale, and Russell Crowe. And of course, 310 to Yuma.
Probably cheaper just to let me rob the damn thing.
Are you upset I don't go more Pardo when I do that? Christian Bale, Russell Crowe, musical guest 10,000 Maniacs.
Good job.
Thank you.
Robberies, over $400,000 in losses.
Y'all notice he didn't make
Like I said, I saw this movie the week it came out.
Ben Wade convicted and hanged, and we will.
It got very good reviews when it came out. It did not do that well. This thing came out in September. By the way, it came out in September, which is a really dead area for the box office. Like, if memory serves me, it was like number one with like $14 million or something like that. Like a number one movie, but that's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think it only ended up like crawling to like $75 million, which is a shame because this is an excellent fucking remake.
Yeah, it is.
This is exactly what we talk about when we are talking about good remakes. It's not a reboot. This is a remake.
And it's gritty.
Yes, it is absolutely gritty. A much grittier film. And the first one's kind of gritty in its own way. So this is a grittier, darker, and bigger film. And it really is what, like I said, we want, because this gives us Mangold's vision on this tale.
Mm-hmm.
It is not just a straight, direct remake.
No.
He is changing things. He is putting his own spin and his message on this story.
But respecting the original movie.
That's the key thing, Meredith. He is 100% respecting that film. He never shits on it in any way, shape, or form, or he just changes some of the things that he would like to see and like his version of it. It's 100% what I want. I know we bashed this film earlier, but the Omen remake was a good example because it just remade that other movie without adding anything to it. And there is so much respect in this one, while so many more new elements are weaved in to make it feel like a fresh story, even though I just watched another version of it.
Yeah.
It really does feel different, but the same. Same, but different, but still same.
Okay. It doesn't make any sense.
You know, it really is what we, like I said, what we want to see from in any kind of remake. This movie gives us a little bit more background before we get into it.
Yeah, on Dan.
Yeah, because we immediately open up with a fire on his property in the barn started by the Hollanders.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who he owes the money to in this version. Well, in the old one, we just assumed it was the bank. They don't really not given a characterization. But in this one, they are. So one thing that is incredibly different in this one is this movie is more about the relationship between Dan and his son.
Yeah.
And that is really something the remake isn't. I mean, the original film, there's a little bit of that there. You can see his kids are interested in the action and the outlaw and everything like that. But, I mean, his son does not respect him at all.
At all.
Yeah, I mean,
from the very beginning.
Yeah.
He's actually the one that gives us a lot of the backstory initially, is he's got such disdain for his father.
Absolutely.
And it's because they're broke and unhappy.
And starving.
And starving, yeah.
Yeah, they're hungry.
And he blames him for it.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And that is something that is a different thread that is weaved throughout this movie. I mean, that is the through line. I think in the old movie, they had Alice, the wife, come out, and her role is much more downplayed here. All of that is basically sort of given to the son.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it makes for a richer narrative throughout. But Dan is truly like a hopeless character in this version of the story. He is a Civil War veteran who lost a leg. And so that automatically makes him different. You know, him being disabled, there's certain things that he's just not able to do.
Yeah, like run.
Exactly. That's sort of a big deal. You know, and this kind of changes his whole entire life, you know, from what we had in the previous film. And the way Bale plays it, I think is really well done. You know, Bale is like bringing out the Oscar material here to show this man at the absolute like end of his desperation.
Because it's been 3 years, because he says it's been 3 years since the Civil War, since he lost his leg. So he's been through a lot. A lot happened in 3 years. Think about COVID.
Exactly, yeah.
COVID it's still technically going on, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been 3 years.
Yeah, it has been. It has been that long.
Yeah.
So
a lot of suffering.
A lot of suffering. Let's just chuckle it away. So after we get this sequence, we move right into the robbery.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a much, much bigger scene in this version. It is a long, intricate action sequence with multiple people dying.
A Gatling gun.
A Gatling gun, armored stagecoach, and an explosion.
Yeah.
Peter Fonda at one point shoots a horse that has dynamite strapped to it, and it fucking explodes.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah, it was like right out of Red Dead, and it was pretty cool. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah,
I mean it was something I didn't expect to see a couple realistic explosions in a Western, but here we are. I actually really like the way it was done, and it's a cool scene. I like the way that plays out. The way they added more action was a fantastic idea, and
because it's like an armored carriage.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they really, really went through a lot of trouble in this one with the Gatling gun and the armor. Like, it takes a lot of work to get into that thing.
Well, that's how you knew there was a ton of cash in there, too.
Yeah, I mean, might as well be like a fucking flag on the top of it saying, try to rob me.
Yeah.
So we get that. Pretty much everybody is killed off. And then from there, except for, I think, McElroy, played by Peter Fonda. And we get introduced to Ben Wade's gang. And the first guy who gets to say anything is Ben Foster, playing Charlie in this version.
So good.
Morning, Pinkerton.
He absolutely is. I love Ben Foster.
I expect you heard of me.
He kind of chews scenery a little bit, but I love it.
Oh, in the best way, though.
In the best way.
In the best way. He's a scene stealer.
Charlie Prince.
He really is.
He's a scene stealer in a movie with Peter Fonda, Russell Crowe, and Christian Bale.
Yeah.
He's just great. And Peter Fonda growling here is really good, too. Listen to this coming out.
Lend your hair to an all gray bar.
Oh, gotta help, Ben Wade.
A lot of hatred in that line. Love it.
Would you look at all this? Y'all spared no expense this time, Byron. I gotta say, though, it's probably cheaper just to let me rob the damn thing.
So Russell Crowe has a bit of a different take on the character here.
Mm-hmm.
And he is still Russell Crowe, so he is still able to be
sociopath.
Yeah, and that's what's sort of different. He is the darker character that Glenn Ford really couldn't do. He very much is in this one, but there is the coolness and that charisma to him as well.
There is charisma. He's like a cult leader.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at him, because the men are pretty loyal. They really are.
Yeah, especially Charlie.
Charlie's absolutely loyal.
He's more loyal He's more evidently loyal in this one.
Because he keeps the other men in line to be loyal to the boss.
Yeah, because they all want to bail on him.
Yeah, at a certain point in the movie, they're like, fuck it, let's just go. And they're like, no, I mean, the way he is, he's much more of the rabid dog. And like, not only will he follow into hell, he'll probably lead into hell.
Yeah.
He is a much better version of this character, really fleshed out, because he's given a lot more to do in this movie than Charlie Prince was given in the previous film. And Ben Foster tackles it expertly. He really does.
Yeah.
So, after this, we get everything that we got in the previous film. Ben Wade sees Dan and his kids, and in this movie, his son is immediately more interested in what's happening. The second he takes that guy down, he has it like a compliment, like, man, he's fast. Like, he just thinks he's so cool.
Yeah.
And poor Dan can't really do a thing about it. He's immediately telling, boys, back up slowly, like trying to get them out of the situation. Very similar from the last movie, trying to keep his kids safe and his cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a little more aggressive here, actually, when he does have the conversation with Ben. Because Charlie has to step in and go like, careful, Rancher. That's Ben Wade you're talking to. Because he's just like, I need my cattle. And then he even reiterates like, that may be the case, but I still need my cattle. And in this movie, it's even more evident because they did a great job getting cows who were pretty lean.
Mm-hmm.
And they look a little sickly. So it does a really nice job, just like in the last movie. It works out pretty much the same way. They take the horses, they give up the cows, and they leave the kids and everything there. So they have to eventually walk back as they head into town.
And there's some similar dialogue too.
There is a lot of dialogue taken from the original movie, and you'll find that throughout the film.
And even up to this point, the movie's very faithful to the remake. I mean, to the original.
Yeah, it very much is. I mean, we get the addition of the Pinkerton character played by Peter Fonda, and that's McElroy. And I think he's a good addition.
Mm-hmm. He's a bounty hunter.
Yeah, I really do, because he lets us know a little bit more about Ben Wade and his character. And anytime you get to see Peter Fonda show up in a Western, I'm really all about that. But from this point on in the movie, everything kind of plays out kind of like it did in the original. The guys go to the bar. He's taken by the bartender. I don't think this scene works as well because Russell Crowe's not quite as charming, but Vanessa Shaw, who plays the girl in this one, is fantastic. I think she's really good. She's really good. And I think the best scene in this version, is him sketching like her backside as after they've had sex.
Mm-hmm.
I think, that kind of shows like a softer side of like Ben Wade, like, him. I don't believe it's as effective as in the original movie, but I still like it.
Yeah. Yeah. They flesh a little bit more of her character out.
Yeah, she's given a bit more to do. I mean, that's sort of it right there. Almost everyone except for Alice is given more to do in this movie.
They capture Ben Wade like they did in the last
and the scene that plays out before, even the same dialogue with the you $5 for making me nervous. I mean, it's almost the exact same, except maybe a word or two. It plays out almost exactly the same here.
They go back to Dan's house.
And once again, another sequence that is very, very similar to the original movie, but also incredibly well played. The charisma is on display from Russell Crowe here, but he is far more menacing than Glenn Ford.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see he's tapered that back here. Doesn't want to be that way in front of the kids and the woman.
Right.
Like, that's the way he looks at it. I don't want to be that quite unhinged. Even when he has a moment just with Alice, like, he still isn't, aggressive in any way, shape, or form. He's still very charming. He never ever pushes a line, because that's not what Ben Wade's about. He's not about hurting women and children.
Yeah.
That the character still does carry that code, even if he is still prodding the lawman. He doesn't he's a bully that picks on lawmen, and I like that, because he doesn't really pick on Dan too much. He directs his comments towards Peter Fonda's character quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, and I think that works out pretty well. As a matter of fact, at one point in the dinner, he tells everybody just not to talk to him, which is fucking impossible.
Yeah, because Peter Fonda gets shot.
Yeah, he does. After we get all this, we set up the plan. They send the decoy wagon in the complete other direction. And from here on, the other movie, we just teleport to contention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this movie is all about the journey. It's all about that trip to contention. And that's where this completely is a different sort of film.
Yeah, you get a lot of campfires and a lot of talking. And
Yeah, and I think you get extra action and extra things added onto it. And I think one of my favorite things that gets added on is where we find out the darkness of Ben Wade. And to me, that comes into play in the very first night.
Gonna hang me in the morning.
This is a scene where Tucker, one of the guys in the posse, is annoying Ben Wade and keeping him up at night by singing this song about his execution. Tucker, by the way, is the guy who lit up
Too much to ask. A little quiet.
Dan's barn.
yeah.
The way I
So they got issues.
He's a fucking asshole, and Ben Wade can see that.
work for you. So if I gotta be up, well then, you're damn well gonna be up with me too. Ben Wade.
They're gonna hang me in the morning before the night is done. Hang me in the morning, never see the sun.
Passage of time. Surely nothing bad happened. That wet sound. Well, it's all audio. It sounds way grosser, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds disgusting. So yeah, Ben Wade just fucking stabs that guy with a goddamn fork and just kills him, fucking like a cold-blooded killer that he is.
Yeah.
And that's something we never even get close to in the original movie. It establishes Ben as far more dangerous in this movie. And Russell Crowe eats that up.
Yeah, it speaks to the tone of the movie.
Yeah, it does. It being a darker film, like it, because there's casualties that are directly due to Ben on this journey, and this is the first one. And how do you like that brutality?
I do. I actually prefer this movie slightly over the original, but very slightly, because the original is so good. But I do like that Ben is more of a sociopath, that he's a cold-blooded killer with principles.
Yeah.
Hang me.
Sociopath, singing the song. Mocking the dead man. It's a great performance by Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
It really is. Actors brought their A game in this one as well. So in the next sequence, McElroy is killed. A moment that I like, because he taunts Ben Wade about his mother. Basically, Peter Fonda's character told everybody to move forward. I got him. I'll watch him. So he gets close to this dangerous killer. And then he mocks his mother while not having himself in a ready stance at all times. How did he think that was going to work out for him?
No kidding.
Eventually, Ben just grabs him and throws him over the cliffside and takes his gun and is able to get control of the group because they assumed the lawman had it in control.
Yeah, he was a bounty hunter.
Yeah, he completely fucked that up. Well, I guess he's a Pinkerton, but he completely fucked that up. That's all I could think of was A History of Violence. How could you fuck that up? That's all I thought of in that. Like, all you had to do is just keep your gun on him. And that allows Ben Wade to escape for the first time. A very short-lived escape, though. He gets the gun on everybody, but he is actually ambushed himself by William. Dan's son has been following this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes up, has the gun on him. And even in this moment, when Dan is just like, you can keep your gun on him, son? Like, encouraging his son immediately turns back and is like, a shit side better than you can. Like, Jesus Christ.
No.
He's just stepping on his dad's nuts. So, after busting his dad's chops one more time, they're able to recapture Ben Wade. How do you feel about, like, William attending on this whole journey?
Well, I like that whole scene because he puts the gun up to Ben's ear, basically.
Yeah.
And Ben's like, you're not going to shoot. And he shoots immediately.
Yeah. And Russell Crowe's expression is priceless. Like,
oh, shit.
Yep, I was wrong about that. I mean, just that look on his eye, like, okay, never mind.
He even brings it up to Dan later. Yeah. He says, I really thought he was going to shoot.
Yeah, he's like, oh shit. You know, like Russell Crowe's so good at this. He really is. And he's such a sort of contrast to Bale's performance. Because Bale's really like bringing out all that full Oscar stuff. And Russell Crowe is almost a little downplayed, but in the best kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Bale's putting it on up. I love the way that the two really play off each other. Even if I do think the chemistry between the two actors was stronger in the original film.
I agree.
Yeah, I really think it was. They don't quite have the same relationship, which I think hurts the end. But we'll get to that. We're getting there. We're having too much fun talking about this fucking movie. So he is captured, but again, this is only short-lived because the next night there is an Apache attack, an Apache ambush.
Yeah, another scene I really like because it shows it shows the killer instinct that Ben has.
Yeah. You don't fuck with him. Yeah.
The Apaches are, gaining some ground on these people.
Yeah,
they kill a couple of guys.
Yeah, because there's no soldiers left. I mean, Dan is a soldier, but he is hobbled, obviously, so he can't do some things. And I mean, Butterfield's worthless, and the doctor, he's not a real doctor, he's a vet. Alan Tudyk, who we haven't talked about at all.
God, I love him.
A very small role. He had a very funny scene early in the movie where he has to pull a bullet out of Peter Fonda. And Peter Fonda, like, what kind of doctor are you? And you can see all the veterinary diagrams. He's really good in this. He is not comedic relief as this character was in the previous movie, but he still lightens up the tone, but only by just being a decent person. He's not really comedic, except for a couple of times he chastises Tucker for being a piece of shit. But like I said, there's no soldiers left, so Ben's not going to let the kid die. So Ben goes out there, and he doesn't want to die himself. He goes out there, and he makes light work of the Apache.
Oh, God, yeah. He dispatches them easily.
He really does. He really does. And it's a nice, brutal scene. You can definitely see that, he is somebody that you don't fuck with at all. I love it. He comes back. He says, give me the keys. And Dan gives him a great fuck you and throws the keys into the darkness, into the grass. And he eats boot because of it. Ben knocks him out. He wakes up, where'd he go? Where do you think he went? And I loved it. Everyone's like, well, I guess that's the end of us. And Dad's like, I need to get paid. I don't know what you guys are here for, but we could go get this motherfucker. So they keep in tow and they head to the Chinese laborer camp where they're basically forcing the Chinese to build the railroad.
Yeah, and this is where we run into one of the Wilson brothers.
We run into one of the Wilson brothers. We run into Luke Wilson. With
my favorite Wilson brother. I love him.
I don't know why. I don't know if anybody loves Luke Wilson.
I love him.
I had no idea you like Luke Wilson.
Yeah, he's great.
He's the lesser Wilson brother.
He's great though.
But Owen is the superior one.
Everything he does is great.
No, that's a lie.
No, everything he does.
Your pants have burst into flames. That is not true. I've seen The Goldfinch. All right, he's not good in that.
Well, I haven't seen that. So
no one should see The Goldfinch. I read that book and I watched that movie. I've never been more bored. The worst. We'll maybe cover that worst movie to screen.
Yeah, because you like that book.
I love that book. I thought it was fantastic. I tore through it and I watched the movie and I was like, yeah. I mean, lit by Roger Deakins. Such a beautiful, gorgeous, boring movie. But I digress. We're not talking about that thing.
No, not yet.
No, one day. So anyway, he's captured by the foreman of the labor camp. And it's Luke Wilson and someone else. And that guy actually, he got his kid brother.
It's the dad. The dad wants revenge for his brother.
Yeah, that's what it was. So he has a personal issue with Ben Wade. And so when our gang eventually stumble upon here, it leads to another cool action scene. I like the way it was done because they get the drop on these guys when they're not paying attention. Even Alan Tudyk's character is able to knock out the doctor. He's able to knock somebody out as a doctor, which I really enjoy. And they get Ben Wade out of there because Ben definitely wants to go with them because they were basically electrocuted him, torturing him at this camp. So he definitely would prefer to go with these guys. So they get out of there. They have a nice sequence running through these tunnels. It's incredibly well laid out and ends with another big logical explosion in a Western movie.
Yeah.
Because they're blowing out mines, so it makes sense there'd be a lot of explosives. And it keeps Luke Wilson and his characters trapped on the other side.
Yeah, because we had our surround sound going and it was loud.
Yeah, it really was. A really great score. Oh, I didn't look up who did the score. I'm sorry, whoever you are. It's fantastic. I'll play an element of it later. And sadly, during the sequence, the doctor is shot. Alan Tudyk is no longer in the movie. He's not due to Ben Wade. Well, I mean, I guess technically it is. But, he's just shot by one of those guys. And he dies asking, we got away, right? And then he passes on. A nice little sequence there. And it sucks he's gone because he was a nice guy. He didn't deserve to die right there on that railway.
No.
Yeah. He was the only one that wanted to try to bury Tucker. Even though he's a piece of shit, he still wanted to try to honor him in that way. I admired that about that character. So it sucks that he died there.
And then we have the gang rides into town, and then we have the whole fight that ensues.
I did want to mention one thing before we got there, and that's the decoy wagon scene. And we don't have a parallel for that in the original movie because the gang was like smart enough to like go to like every neighboring town and wait for signs of Ben Wade, I guess.
Yeah, they all split up and went to different towns.
In this one, they do follow the decoy wagon and they get there. And it's another brutal scene where Ben Foster's fantastic. He basically burns the man to death, forcing him to give up the information on where they're at. And we talked about earlier, he keeps the gang in line in that scene. But I love him burning that guy in there with him like screaming in the background. It's a really, really nasty sequence. And I like that, like how brutal these guys are without Ben Wade to kind of even them out.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And then, of course, they ride all the way straight to contention. And we spend less time in contention because of it.
Yeah.
You know, when we get to contention, you know, there is obviously the sequence in the hotel, but a lot of that stuff that we did in the previous film, a lot of that was accomplished on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still something there, but you know, once we get to contention, we are in the third act. You know, that's it. We are ready to roll.
Yeah.
Because it's only a little bit of time before Charlie and the gang show up.
Yeah. They ride into town.
Yeah. And in this movie, it's a little bit different. The sheriff isn't out of town. Butterfield's actually able to gather a few marshals. And they have like, what, 5 or 6 guys?
Yeah. And they have some army guys too. And
Yeah. So they have a little posse there to try to get him across. And there's a big whole element about, you know, justice. We get it. And there's still justice in this town while Ben Wade mocks that idea. So Charlie, as ruthless and loaded as he is, because he's got a lot of cash from the robbery, he offers any man $200 to shoot anybody with that posse. And like the whole town immediately like goes and grabs every pistol or gun they ever had, going to shoot the shit out of these guys. It's fucking chaos.
Mm-hmm.
This character is so different in this movie because he is this wild psychopath. And like he's just this agent of chaos, and he gets this whole town butchered trying to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this whole sequence. I do. You know, because they send the marshals out, they immediately give up, and Charlie guns them down instantly. I love that. No mercy at all. So anybody in there knows they're fucked. They're not going out. They're not going to defend. And it leads us to the sequence here.
Dan, and if I can't do it, you should...
Butterfield tapping out, not wanting to do this.
They say discretion is the better part of valor.
If you think you have an obligation to me or to the railroad, I assure you, you do not. I'm releasing you.
It's just you left, Dan. Just you and your boy.
Maybe he's right, Pa. Maybe we should go home.
Well, what did Doc Potter give his life for, William? McElroy.
Little red ants on a hill.
I'll pay you the $200, Dan, right now, and you can walk away.
It's not even about the money.
Well, this whole ride, it's been nagging on me. That's what the government gave me for my leg.
I love that addition.
$198.36, and the funny thing is that when you think about it, which I have been lately, was they weren't paying me to walk away. They were paying me so they could walk away.
This is Bale's Oscar moment.
Don't muddy the past and the present, Dan.
No, wait. I'm seeing the world the way
And much like the last movie, Ben is trying to save Dan.
To the train.
Mm-hmm.
Subtly, but just trying to push him.
Mr. Butterfield's gonna take you home.
No, I'm not going anywhere.
Yes, you
with him.
are.
I'm staying here with you.
You're gonna hold up in a room across the hall. You're gonna wait until we leave.
I'll get him to Bisbee, Dan, I promise you.
Oh, you're gonna promise me a lot more than that, Butterfield. I want guarantees that Hollander,
Butterfield's a better character in this
his
version.
boys,
Yeah, it has more to do.
Yes, he's in on the action.
again, and that my water.
He's a fighter in this one.
And I expect you to hand my wife 1,000 cash dollars when you see her. You got money to spare.
I can deliver that. Just get him on the train.
It's a pretty generous offer.
Yeah.
You heard him,
I heard him.
William. I want you to give this back to your mother.
I like this scene. You guys can't see here, but he's handing him his medal, and Ben Wade looks directly over them as he hands it to him, and Ben is so uncomfortable by this moment. Watching a father say goodbye to his son.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it, just Russell Crowe's expression this whole time that plays through.
Something
He
happens and it
hates
doesn't
this,
need a man.
and he's responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
When things
Like, it hits him harder than he really thought it would. I love the way Crowe plays this whole scene. Without a lot of dialogue. What, 4 or 5 lines?
You got all the best parts of me. What few there are. And you just remember, it's your old man walked Ben Wade to that station when nobody else would.
So yeah, I listen. I had to play that for Bale because I think the relationship between the father and son is so important and so strong in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes it work for me. It really does. I like this sequence and the circumstances to this one better than in the original film. Things are far more dangerous. The stakes are through the roof, and as hopeless as Dan is, like I love that moment with his son. I think that's far more impactful than when Alice came to visit in the earlier film. I love that scene. I do.
Yeah.
And I like the subtle work done by Russell Crowe in the background, underplaying a really big moment. It's really well done by him. So it's great. And now once that's done, we're in the shit.
We're in the shit.
Yeah. Dan, he won't quit, so he's heading out there. There is a bit of assist from Ben, just like in the previous movie. Ben is along for this ride a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can kind of tell he's like, I'm going to humor this guy a little bit because it's very clear because as they move later on and the plan is kind of falling apart by Charlie. The idea of just shoot at those guys coming out. Well, one of those guys is your boss.
Yeah.
So he goes out there and he's just shooting people down. Random townspeople who thought they were getting $200 from him are just dying from his gun. It's complete fucking chaos out there. And Dan and Ben take shelter in one building and Ben's completely fucking done with his shit.
I ain't doing this no more, Dan.
I'll get you on that train, will you?
Coming back! Boy's gone, hero. Ain't nobody watching no more. Still got that one good leg. Why don't you use it to get on home? Charlie! Charlie Prince! Hold your fire! I'm walking out!
Dan never quits. Still tackles and throws him down. Ben's just trying to choke the life out of him. He's had enough, finally. It does sound more brutal this way.
I've never been no hero, Wade.
I love this.
Only battle I seen. We was in retreat. My foot got shot off by one of my own men. You try telling that story to your boy. See how he looks at you then.
Everything here is just played within a look of Russell Crowe realizing like what he has to do here. It is the moment that sort of breaks him down when he sees this is not about anything else. This is all the man has left is his honor, and there's barely anything there. He sees that utter desperation in this honorable man. And I mean, it's a moment of pity and understanding and acceptance.
He's also okay with dying.
Yeah, like he's like, if you have to kill me for this, then do it. Somebody stand for something like that? It affects Ben in a way he's not really prepared for. And all this is done by just a look from Russell Crowe. It is the power of great acting. It really is. Because you can just see that in his eyes, that acceptance, understanding of this moment. The pity passing to like, I know what I have to do. Like I got to get on that train. To me, a lot of people questioned, I think, how the moment kind of turns. And I think let me rephrase. I don't know if Ben Wade has ever respected anyone, but he absolutely respects this man right now. And he's never felt that. I don't know if he's ever had a connection with somebody like that who just was a good person, because I'm sure he's only dealt with pieces of shit for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And just this one happenstance of these two guys happen to meet at the crossway of this robbery and his cattle getting loose caused this one moment where he absolutely identified for this character, and this sociopath wasn't selfless for one damn time. To me, I think that makes it work. They run through there and absolutely Ben is leading the charge to get himself into the train. He's helping him along the rooftops, helping him dodge everything. He is in charge here. He absolutely is going to get there. I love the way it all plays out. They keep running. They eventually have to take cover as the entire gang has them pinned down. A very confused gang, by the way. It grows subtly. Like they can show shots of the guys being like, Ben, what are you doing? Because they can see that he's on the rooftop pulling, Dan along. How did you feel about this version of events.
I like this version of event. I like I said, I like this movie a little bit more than the original. The action that it brings, and like all the stuff that you just mentioned. I like that Ben actually ends up just going with the flow.
Yeah, I think to me it makes a lot of sense. He understands what that man's sacrifice means. Like I said, I don't know if he's ever felt that before from somebody. And obviously we get right there. The train has come through, but they're still pinned down. And William comes through and he releases a herd.
Actually, the train's late.
I'm sorry, the train's late. Yeah. The train was late when they get there. So that's why they had to basically hunker down in there, and that allowed them to get surrounded by the gang. But as the train is beginning to arrive, William shows up and he releases a herd of cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And as basically Charlie has that kill shot lined up, he is stampeded by the cattle. I love this score. I love this music. So this is it. They make that last final run. The hero music is thumping.
I got a prisoner to go to Yuma!
Well, you did it, Dan.
No!
Just like that, Charlie shoots him in the back.
Several times.
Yep. You hear each gunshot. I love that scream. You also go, no! Ben Wade stumbling out of that train, just dumbfounded, just staring at Dan dying. Heartbroken almost. I mean, that's the look on his face. Like he just lost his best friend.
He's one tough son of a bitch.
There's a beautiful moment here between Foster and Crow where they just look at each other and immediately he knows that Ben Wade is not on his side. Wade takes out the whole gang.
Yeah, he kills everybody.
Yeah, and that's completely different. Dan is dying. This is why I played the clip, is just for this little moment. William has his gun on him. He's gonna make sure he gets on that goddamn train. I think I jumped the gun a little bit. Now William is gonna bring his gun on him. That was him finishing off Charlie. He put an extra shot in his heart. Literally breaks his heart. This is it right here.
You've done it.
He's dying, and his son respects him for the first damn time. What the whole damn movie was for.
Mm-hmm.
I love this moment.
It's a redemption story.
This is why I fucking love movies. This is such a beautiful, beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm.
I love him just over his father as he's dying. There's almost a little smile on his face as he goes, knowing that he did his job, and his son has one thing to look up to his father. That he was the bravest goddamn person that day. I love it.
Yeah.
I fucking love this movie. I love both films. I can't recommend them highly enough.
Which one did you like more?
I enjoy the second film more. I enjoy the remake more.
Yeah.
That was the first one I saw, and I like Bale's performance, and I love the relationship with his son. It puts it over the top for me. It really does. And Vanessa Shaw.
All right.
I had a crush on her when I was in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was in some teen movie or something like that when I was
Hocus Pocus.
It was something. Well, it was something else too. Something else too that she did. I can't remember what it is right now. It wasn't Corky Romano, but she's in that too. The only reason I've seen it because she's in it, and she rapes the guy in 40 Days and 40 Nights.
The weekend before the movie was wrapped, a freak storm dumped 2 feet of snow on the town. Laborers shoveled the snow from buildings, balconies, and roofs, and distributed 89 dump trucks of dry soil.
Dry soil.
Not dry oil.
Yeah. Excuse me, sir. Can I have the driest oil you have?
They had 89 dump trucks of dry soil on the ground.
It's a lot of dump trucks.
Backhoes created an 8-foot-tall rampart of snow just out of sight of the camera.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what you have to... People don't take into consideration all that kind of production work that goes into it when weather fucks with your day.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that stuff that has to go through when you get rain when you don't want it.
On the first day of filming, a writer of and his horse were seriously injured in a scene where his horse ran directly into a camera-carrying vehicle instead of veering off as planned.
Oh no, is the horse okay?
The rider was hospitalized and the horse had to be euthanized on the set.
No! Wait, did some guy come and shoot the horse?
They shot him on set.
Holy shit. Jeez.
The animal's death prompted an investigation by the Humane Society. They concluded no charges should be brought against the producer.
Yeah, no, that's serious shit. That is serious shit. A friend of mine was on a production once where an animal got killed, and people got in serious trouble for that because they were rushing and trying to do things as quickly as they could, and they got like a dog crushed or something like that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they were trying to do some stunt with a truck or something like that. So I don't know the specifics, but I remember like he was working with a production company, and it pretty much put him out of business.
What do Glenn Ford and Superman have in common?
Glenn Ford was Jonathan Kent in Richard Donner's film. Yeah.
And Russell Crowe plays.
Yeah, he also. Yeah, that's right.
Jor-El
Yeah, he played the
Man of
other
Steel.
Superman father.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think good job. I did not put that together, but oddly enough, the second you said it, I was like, wait, I do know of another Glenn Ford movie. I completely forgot he was in Superman.
Yeah.
Until just that moment. Like my brain just lit up the second you said it. I love that. Now I know where my keys are in 1988. All right.
Okay, so 310 to Yuma, 1957, got a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. The 2007 version got a 4.5 user review, 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
No, not bad. Yeah, well, they're both well reviewed and well liked. So,
and here is so I couldn't find any 1-star reviews for the original movie.
I was super curious about this if you were able to find that lower review.
But I found a 3-star review.
Okay, well, we will accept that. We will accept that.
Okay. This film is well acted with reasonably good looks and feel. It's even well written in terms of interesting dialogue and character complexity. The problem is, and it is a serious problem, that the plot, character, motivations, and actions are ill-conceived and never credible. Ben Wade, Glenn Ford, is a charismatic and ruthless thief and murderer who charms the woman and disarms a man. Dan Evans Van Heflin is a simple farmer with a sense of justice who is hired to transport Wade to Yuma in secret and under threat from Ford's gang of thieves. The two engage in a psychological battle as they wait in a hotel room for a 310 to arrive. All that sounds great, but credibility is the issue. The script is too clever for its own good. To start, Wade and company actually report their own crime after having committed the robbery without hiding their identities. No explanation is even offered for this odd behavior. Once caught, and he is too easily caught, Wade is far too smug in his presumption that this gang will save him. Evans becomes inexplicable dedicated to his task, willing to risk his own life against impossible odds even after he is released from his commitment. Even so, Evans is inexplicably deferential to his own prisoner. He rolls and lights a cigarette for Wade repeatedly, without Wade having asked for the favor. Evans even tells Wade that he has nothing against Wade and is only doing this job. But Evans, seemingly so concerned with justice, actually saw Wade kill 2 men. Evans contradicts himself in both word and deed. At one point, Wade rushes Evans and is knocked back. His explanation, "I wanted to see if you would shoot. Please." The film is an odd and failed combination of incompatible dynamics. While it assumes the audience is intelligent enough to be fascinated by the psychological battle, it also assumes we're not smart enough to question the many absurdities. In the end, it's a real eye roller.
Wow. Yeah, like they do pretty much explain why they do some stuff. And I think the way Ben is captured is clever. I think he had everybody fooled. That's what he thought. He just got unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
And, he got horny. They got the best of him. He would not be the first man whose dick led him astray.
No, he wouldn't.
No, he certainly would not. So I think it's a pretty terrible review. But, weirdly enough, he complimented all the other stuff, like the writing, the directing, and the acting. But he had a few issues with that. But I guess if you have issues with your suspension of disbelief and you can't get past something, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it can really be.
Okay, and the 2007, I did find a 1-star review, and here it is.
Lay it on me.
Okay, first, why steal the title from a classic Western if you're not just going to yank a few more bucks from their clients, us, when the so-called remake is butchered beyond belief? This effort should have been a standalone production, so just so it wouldn't drag down another production with it. The main character, played by Crow, is quite happy to murder law enforcement and his own gang members with nothing shorter than that of a psychopath, yet fluctuates back and forth in wanting to help and feel sorry for his captor and son. I won't waste time repeating a lot of the film's other irregularities, but that run through town with the citizens and gang now trying to kill them, I mean, let's get real. Was it a town policy only to sell guns to blind people? And were the town people who were after the money, who knew every nook and cranny of their tiny town, just terminally stupid as well? As for the last scene, total in its absolute ridiculousness, Crow was a psychopath, someone unable to empathize with any sort of extended to others. So what's the aw shucks, I guess he's not so bad after all when he's been murdering those after him and his own gang all throughout the whole story. I could go on, but I leave it with this. If this is the best the studios can do with westerns, then they should forget about making them. The movie wasn't even worth the time wasted making or watching it, even if you got to watch it for free. I like the main actors, I like westerns, but the potential for quality and that these things offered was absolutely absent here.
Well, Ben doesn't kill indiscriminately like that guy mentioned. You know, he left Peter Fonda's character alive.
Well, I think when I was going through the reviews, a lot of the 1-star reviews had to do with the ending and the fact that he kills his own gang. So I'm thinking that's what he means.
Yeah, I could see how some people had a problem with that, but for him to do what he did, like, he can't just get on the train with his gang there. So he had to think of something. But yeah, those guys like went through hell for like 3 days to try to get him back, only to be shot by the leader of their gang because he grew a conscience for a rancher that he just met.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose you can have some issue with it. Like I explained very clearly to me why it works for me and why I love it. But I can certainly understand if you look at that and be like, whatever. Like it may not work for you. And listen, that's fine. That's okay. Like, not every movie is going to be universally loved. It's just how it goes. We just discovered there can be a 3-star review for a classic. I'm pretty sure there's lots of people that hate Citizen Kane. You don't like Citizen Kane.
No.
You don't like Citizen Kane. Well, I mean, I guess that's going to do it for our show. We don't really have a whole lot else to... Or do we have anything else to add? So, Roger Ebert did talk a lot about the original movie that he absolutely loved. I got to watch a long lecture about it a little earlier in the day. He really, really loved the movie. But since he was around and kicking in 2007, he did review the remake. So, with that being said, Roger Ebert gave the film... Can you guess how many stars he gave the remake?
3.5.
It 4 stars.
Wow.
4 stars.
I didn't think he had it in him.
Right. Roger Ebert says, James Mangold's 3:10 to Yuma restores the wounded heart of the Western and rescues it from the morass of pointless violence. The Western in its glory days was often a morality play, a story about a humanist values penetrating the lawless anarchy of the frontier. It still follows that tradition in films like Eastwood's Unforgiven, but the audience's appetite for morality plays and Western seems to be fading. Here, the quality of the acting and the thought behind the film make it seem like a vanguard of something new, even though it's a remake of a great movie over 50 years old. The plot is so easily told that Elmore Leonard originally wrote it as a short story. A man named Dan Evans, who lost a leg in the Civil War, has come to the Arizona Territory to try his luck at ranching. It's going badly, made worse by a neighboring bully who wants to force him off his land. The territory still fears Indian raids, and just as much the lawless gang led by Ben Wade, which sticks up stagecoaches, robs banks, casually murders people, and outguns any opposition. Through a series of developments that seem almost directed by fate, Dan Evans finds himself as part of a posse sworn in to escort Wade, captured and handcuffed, to the nearby town of Contention, where the 310 train has a cell in its mail car that will transport Wade to the prison in Yuma and a certain death sentence. Both Dan and Ben have elements in their characters that come under test in this adventure. Dan fears he has lost the confidence of his wife, Alice, and teenage son, Will, who doubt he can make the ranch work. Still less does Dallas... Pardon me.
Debbie does Dallas.
Shit. I forgot how to read. It's been a long show, guys. Still less does Alice see why her transplanted Eastern husband should risk his life as a volunteer. The son, Will, who has practically memorized dime novels about Ben Wade, idolizes the outlaw. And when Dan realizes the boy has followed the posse, he is not pleased at all. That's an insight into Wade. He plays his persona like a performance. He draws, reads, philosophizes. Philosophizes? Philosophizes. Philosophizes.
Wow.
Long show. All right. You don't got me all philosophizing over here. Having spent untold time living on the run with them, he may actually find it refreshing to spend time with Dan, even as his captive. Eventually, the two men end up in a room in the Contention Hotel, overlooking the street, in earshot of the train whistle, surrounded outside by armed men who want to rescue Ben or kill him. These three outlines also describe the 1957 version of 3:10 to Yuma, directed by Delmore Dave, starring Glenn Ford and Van Heflin in the roles of the rancher and the outlaw. The movie, with its railroad timetable, followed the slowly advancing clock in High Noon and was compared to it. When I saw it in 35mm at Telluride in the 1980s, I thought it was better than High Noon, not least because of that personality shifts it involves. Mangold's version is better still than the 1957 original, because it has better actors, with more thought behind their dialogue. Christian Bale plays not simply a noble hero, but a man who has avoided such risk, as he now takes and is almost at a loss to explain why he is bringing a killer to justice, except that having been mistreated and feeling unable to provide for his family, he is fed up, and here he takes his stand. Crow, however, plays not merely a merciless killer, although he is that too, but a man who is capable of surprising himself. He is too intelligent to have only one standard behavior, which must fit all situations, and is perhaps bored of having that expected of him. Westerns used to be showcases of great character actors, of whom I was lucky enough to meet Dub Taylor, Jack Elam, Chill Wills, Ben Johnson, and, when she wasn't doing a million other things, Shelley Winters. 3:10 to Yuma has two roles that need special character flavor and fills them perfectly. Peter McFonda plays McElroy, a professional bounty hunter who would rather claim the price on Ben Wade's head than let the government execute him for free, and Ben Foster, who plays Charlie Prince, the second in command of Wade's gang, who seems half in love with Wade, or maybe Charlie's half aware that he's all in love. Wade would know which, and wouldn't care, except as material for his study of human nature. Locked in the hotel room, surrounded by death for one or the other, the two men begin to talk. Without revealing anything of the plot, let me speculate that each senses he has found the first man he has met in years who is his equal in conversation. Crow and Bale play this dialogue so precisely that it never reveals itself for what it really is, a testing of mutual insight. One trial of a great actor is the ability to let dialogue do its work invisibly, something you can also see in next week's In the Valley of Eli, with Tommy Lee Jones and Charlize Theron. I don't know why he's playing that movie. Too many actors like the guy who laughs at his own joke and then tells it to you again. James Mangold first came into view with an extraordinary movie named Heavy. His Walk the Line won an Oscar for Reese Witherspoon. To remake 3:10 to Yuma seems an odd choice after such other modern films as Girl Interrupted, but the movie itself proves he had a good reason for choosing it. In hard times, Americans have often turned to westerns to reset their compasses. In very hard times, it takes a very good western. Attend well to Ben Wade's last words in this movie, and who he says them to, and why. Good words from Mr. Roger Ebert.
Yes, very long words.
Yeah, Ebert wrote an incredibly long review there. So, yeah, that's it. Ebert loved it. I loved it. You loved it. We love it. Go check out these movies. We couldn't really recommend them any higher.
Right.
We've already given our social information, so I don't have that to end on, unless you have a final thought.
No. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think we really did. We discussed all that we could about these two movies.
Yeah.
And next week we're going to be doing the 10 Commandments. So
no, we're not.
No, we're gonna break down every single scene of the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston.
No, we're not.
We're not doing that. I don't know what we're going to be doing, but we'll figure it out by next week. Trust me, there'll be a show. There's always a show.
Yeah.
No matter what. All right, I'm Pedro, and I appreciate you listening. Have a good one.
And I'm Meredith. Bye.